Hi there, welcome to this video. We are going to draw this lovely little fox using just basic shapes, okay, lines and rectangles and stars, just really simple stuff. Okay, we're going to start with a template to draw over the top and end up with this. All right, let's go and look at that now. Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to draw from this drawing that I've made, okay, just to make it simple and so we can all kind of follow along. Okay, so what I'd like to do is in Illustrator is we're going to go to File, New, okay, and pick a document size. I'm going to start with print. I'm going to use US letter. I'm going to use landscape, okay, and I'm not going to change anything else. I'm just going to click create. I'm going to save it. Okay, so I'm going to go to File, Save, and what we'll do for this class is I'll put everything on my desktop. You do the same. I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop. I'm going to call this one Illustrator Class Files. Okay, and that's where we're going to stick everything from this class. Let's call this one Sleeping Fox, and let's click Save. Let's leave everything as the default and click OK. All right, so we're drawing from a drawing. I've drawn it in my notebook, right, and I want to kind of just redraw it in Illustrator. So a nice trick to do that is I've done a scan of it, okay, or you can take a photo of it, and I'm going to go to File and I'm going to go to Place. Now, Place is import, okay, for Illustrator. Illustrator likes to call it Place. Click on that. I want you to find your exercise files, and there's one in there called sleepingfox.jpg. Now, before you click Place, click on this one that says Template. What it does for us, let's have a look. Let's click Place. What it does for us is it brings it in, okay, and I'm going to click in the background here, and it puts it on a layer, okay, and locks it so we can draw over the top of it easily. Okay, where I click on my layers panel here, you can see it created a template layer and then a layer that I can draw on. You don't have to do this, okay, it just makes it a little easy when we're redrawing. For some reason, it likes to bring it in and kind of has it a little bit over here to the left. So I'm going to unlock it. Can you see that's the locking icon? I'm going to click on it, drag it across to a little bit more in the middle, somewhere like that, and then lock it again. And to continue drawing, I'm going to make sure I'm on layer 1. Let's jump back to properties. Now we'll start with this body here. We're going to grab the rectangle tool. Here he is here. And I'm going to click, hold, and drag out kind of a rough rectangle. If you don't get it quite right, jump back to the black arrow and use any of these white boxes here just to kind of resize it and get it kind of close to that size there. It's a bit of a guess. Don't worry too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a fill color and a stroke color. Now yours might be different. Yours might have a black line around the outside and a white fill. Let's look at changing those. So over here in my appearance panel, there's one called fill and one called stroke. Okay, so I'm going to click on fill and I'm going to pick a fox kind of color. Now we're going to use the swatches here. So you've got two options here, kind of the rainbow colors and the swatches. Let's just pick, just for this class, let's keep it simple and just pick something in here. You can have a green fox, that's okay. I'm just going to have an orange fox. And in terms of the stroke, okay, the stroke is the line around the outside. Yours might already be black. And you might see, I'll click off over here, you can see there's a black line. If I select on this and click on stroke color, now I want to use this little red line here. This little red line indicates no stroke, that little red crossed out, nothing there. So that's what I want. If nothing is changing, okay, what you need to do with your black arrow is just make sure this box is selected, then make your changes. Okay, so that's a rectangle, exciting, and that says fill color. Let's get into something a little more exciting. See these little dots in the corner here? These are your corner options. Watch this. I can click and drag these corners, okay, the little spots there, and you can notice that all of the corners come and change. Okay, so it's kind of what I want. I'm going to go to Edit Undo. Okay, I'm going to use my shortcut for the rest of this course, so it's Command Z on a Mac or Control Z on a PC. So I'm going to undo a couple of times until it's back. Now what I'd like to do is, you can see underneath here the drawing, I've just got a corner there and a corner there. So what I'd like to do is use my white arrow. Remember, the black arrow is great for doing kind of like big things, moving the whole object. The white arrow is good for doing little bits within that object. And what I'm going to do is, in this top right hand corner, I'm going to click it once. You'll notice that this guy is blue and these guys are white, indicating that this one is selected. And you can see here just one little target appears. Okay, I can click on this guy now and go something like that. Same with the bottom left, click on that one, drag it up. Don't worry too much about being perfect. But if you really do want it to be perfect, what you can do is, I'm going to undo a couple of times, is you can have these guys selected at the same time. So click this guy once, hold shift, click this guy once, and you've got two dots. And when you drag one, they both update. Cool. So that's my little thing for his body. Let's look at doing the head now. So I'm going to go back to my black arrow. Remember, that's the default kind of tool to go to. Click off in the background, got nothing selected. And the next tool I want is the polygon tool. okay, because I want a triangle for his head, and that's considered a polygon in here. So I'm going to find the rectangle tool, click, hold, hold, hold with your mouse key, okay, hold it down, and eventually these pop out. And I'm looking for this one called polygon. Click on that. Now, if I just do nothing, it'll drag out whatever I last drew. Yours is probably going to draw an actual pentagon or a hexagon. It's going to draw something. Okay, so I'm going to undo to get rid of that. If you want to adjust how many sides this polygon has, all you need to do is just click once with your mouse. Click once, and you get these polygon options. Okay, and yours is probably set to 5, and you're probably getting something like that. Okay, so I'm going to undo again. Click once, pick 3 sides. Don't worry too much about the radius. We can change that afterwards. So I've got a triangle. So next thing I want to do is do some rotation and scaling. And it's best to do that when we're back on our safety tool, the black arrow. I'm going to click, hold, and drag the center. Okay, so it's kind of in a more usable place. Now to scale and rotate, let's look at rotating first. So black arrow, I have this guy selected just once. Now what you'll notice is when I'm in the corner, I get this little stretching arrow. That's my scale. But if I come just a bit further out, I get this little double arrow. Okay, so this kind of like no man's land here. Too far, doesn't work. Just in, okay, you'll get used to it. Okay, so if I click and hold here, I can drag it around. Okay, clicking and holding. Now what I can also do is undo. I want it to be kind of like, I want to flip it in like, is it 90 degrees? I think it's 90 degrees. I want to, while I'm dragging, watch this. If I hit down and hold down the shift key on my keyboard, okay, watch this. Can you see it? Drags in like nice big chunks. Okay, it's 45 degrees and then 90. That's what I want. Now in terms of scaling, same tool, okay, black arrow. And if I grab the corner here and just drag it, I can resize it any sort of shape I want, clicking, holding, and dragging. Now I would like to kind of constrain the proportions so it's like this perfect triangle, because if I kind of scale it down here, it gets a bit long and thin. So what I'm gonna do is hold down the shift key. Okay, like I did when I was rotating, if I hold shift while I'm scaling in any of the corners, you can see if I drag it down, it kind of wants to be the same height and width, kind of locks that ratio. So I'm just going to drag it kind of in there and drag it up a little bit, something like that. Okay, so getting close. Now the only trouble with what I've got here is I can't really see through it to some of the other parts that I'm drawing. So what it might be nice now is just while I'm working, I'm going to switch down the stroke and I'm going to make it a black stroke, and the fill I'm going to change to none. Okay, so fill with a little red line and the stroke with black. Now I can see through it. All right, like we did with the shape down here, we can play with the corner options. So I've got this selected with my black arrow. You'll notice that I can't click in the center anymore. Okay, I could on this because it selects the whole thing, but in the middle of this, I can't. It doesn't. You've got to select the edge now because it has no fill. And like before, I can grab this like little target here and it does all the corners. That's not what I want. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to grab my white arrow and click on just this guy here. And then I'm going to drag him up to roughly the same size that I want. Awesome. Triangles and rectangles. Let's do the nose now. So I'm going to grab my polygon tool, click once, 3 sides, click OK. It's way too big. Grab my black arrow, holding shift, I'm going to scale it down. And then just in this no man's land, I'm going to try and rotate it around. Now I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to get it roughly the right size there. Now what I can do when I'm dragging this thing around, often you just drag this little dot in the center, okay, that moves it around. And I kind of want to get it perfect in there. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to do when we're working, is that you'll notice that by default, this thing kind of like, you see these like little marks that appears, you can see it says intersect and tries to line up with things all over here. So a couple of things we need to do is make sure our smart guides are on because they're really helpful. So go to view and come down to here, make sure smart guides are ticked on. Next thing to do is just to zoom in. Okay, when you're working this far out on things this delicate, it's just really hard. It snaps to everything. So remember Command plus or Control plus on a PC gets us in nice and close. And watch this. If I have my black arrow, just click off in the background. And so I don't have it selected, right? I got nothing selected. And if I click and you can see I can move my little cursor around, it says anchor. An anchor is considered like a corner point. Okay, so if I click on and drag this anchor, okay, and I drag it close to here, you'll see eventually it'll snap in there. Okay, and it just kind of like wants to line up and intersect. So you can find that's a nice easy way. It's got to be zoomed in a little closer and then kind of just drag at the corner and try and line it up where you want it to go. And if smart guides are on, it's really good at kind of snapping in there. Next thing I want to do is I want to have this a fill of black and I want to have no line around the outside. Little red line. Okay, next tool we're going to use is I want to put in these whiskers. So I'm going to select on this guy, and even though I just put the color in, I'm going to move it back to having no fill, and I'm going to give it a stroke around the outside, okay, so I can see it. Now let's do the whiskers, okay, and we're just going to use the line segment tool, just a nice simple tool. Click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag. Okay, just so I've got 3 little lines. One thing you might find is if you try and draw something kind of like straight out of, you can see if I draw something and then I draw another one, I want it to come out that little point there, it actually starts moving it. So if you do want to kind of get them to come out of the same point, is once you've drawn one, grab the black arrow, click in the background, go back to the line tool, and then you'll be able to kind of like start again. Black arrow, click in the background, back to the line tool, start again. Okay, I've kind of kept mine separate down here just to avoid that. All right, next thing I want to do is this little closed eye. Now we could, if we hold down the polygon tool, find the ellipse tool, and I could draw like an open eye, okay? But my guy is sleeping, so I'm going to delete him. And underneath the line segment tool is an arc tool. Okay, so click on him, and what I'm going to draw is just something, it's a bit random the way it draws, okay? I want it kind of to be this way, but let's just click it down and kind of get something arcy, okay? And then we'll rotate it. So I've got something like that, grab my black arrow. Remember, just hovering out here, I can drag it around, move it down, scale it up, just kind of work with it until you find something that you like, okay? And in terms of the stroke, say width, okay, it's a bit thin for me, I'm going to increase it up. Probably the same for all of these guys, they're all a bit thin for me at the moment. So I can do them individually, and just over here with it selected, this is the stroke width, okay, how thick the line is, you can see I can get really big. Okay, I'm gonna go to something like, I don't know, 5 points. Now, I don't want to have to do this individually, so I'm going to click on this guy with my black arrow, hold shift, grab him. So I've got all 3 of them selected, and I'd like them all to be 5. There you go. Cool. So now I can go through and add my colors again. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So this body here, it had no stroke. So I'm going to go back to the little crossed out red line. And the fill here, I'm going to pick my color. It was going to be, I think it was this one. Okay, and the head, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to have no stroke, and I'm going to pick a fill color of that orange. That's the kind of basics to get started. Let's look at a couple of things. Let's look at this ear here. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to grab my polygon tool again, and because it remembers what I drew last time, I can just draw something out. Okay, rather than clicking once and making sure it's got 3 sides. I know it does now. So I can click and drag out. Now, while I'm dragging out, I can hold shift to get it to go perfect. That's kind of what I want. Okay, so something like that. And it just needs to be big enough, because what I'm gonna do is with the black arrow, grab the center, I'm gonna kind of turn it into this ear. So it probably needs to be a bit bigger. Okay, just so it kind of sits back there a little bit. So what I'd like to do for this one is I'd like to have a really thick stroke and a fill of white. So the fill, I'm gonna change to white, and I'm gonna have the stroke, and I'm going to pick maybe just the darker color of that, and I'm going to increase it to match the font size, the stroke size. I'm using 5 everywhere else for these guys, I might as well use 5 for the ear. I'm just going to pop it there. Now this brings me to the next point of arranging, okay, because basically the last thing you draw is on top. All I need to do is move it to the back. And there's a couple of ways, and with it selected with the black arrow, okay, over here there's one called arrange, and I can go send to back. There it goes there. Or often what I do is I just right click it, and there's arrange, send to back. Either way, it doesn't matter. Let's look at doing these stars, okay? So there is an actual tool for it called the star tool. Okay, grab on him, click once, decide how many points you want, and by default, it's gonna give you a pretty nice looking star. You can change the radius, the 2 radiuses, the inner, which is the outside part, and then the inner radius, radius 2 is this inside part. Okay, so I'm gonna click OK, it gives me a star, I can click and drag it out. So what I'd like you to do is I'm gonna undo and just kind of drag out a star. Start from the center, there we go, roughly. Don't worry too much about it. You can have more stars, you can have less stars, yeah, something like that. Badly drawn star, little stars, add more, go nuts. Okay, we're going to add a bit more detail, this tail, and we'll add kind of the grass down the bottom. Now, basically we've covered the tools that we're going to be using, so you can skip ahead. There's a couple of little things that we'll do in here. So let's do this tail first. Okay, so I might grab my rectangle tool. Can't find him, there he is. Okay, draw something roughly close to it. You'll notice the smart guides here is locking to the bottom, super helpful. You can turn them off though, remember, under View, Smart Guides, if you're finding them troublesome. There's a shortcut, it's a really often to turn it on and off while you're building. Okay, so they've given it a really good shortcut. In this case on a Mac, it's Command U or Control U on a PC. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to give it no fill so I can see through it. Okay, and I'm going to grab my white arrow, click on just this corner. Actually, I'm going to click on that one, hold shift, grab that one, and let's draw something matching this. Okay, same thing again. I'm going to draw a rectangle over this guy. Okay, I'm going to grab my white arrow, click on this one, hold shift, grab this guy, grab that corner point, and we're doing some stuff. Okay, and what I want to do is I'm going to pick a fill color. So the moment the stroke is orange, I'd like to have the stroke as none. Fill color is the orange. And I'm going to have this fill color, so a stroke of none and a fill color of white. Exciting. Now he's lying down. I feel like now that I've drawn it, I want to grab this guy. So I selected both of them, clicked on this, hold shift, grab this guy, and I'm gonna rotate it around. Holding shift while you're rotating, remember, like the head, locks it into kind of 45. Does he look like he's sleeping there? You decide. Does it, can't tell. Yeah, he looks like he's sleeping there. All right, and next thing I'd like to do is underneath here is some grass. So all I'm gonna do is, actually I'm just gonna move that out of the way for the moment. Grab the polygon tool, which is still set to triangle. Okay, draw something triangle-y, and then grab the black arrow and just kind of shrink it in there. And I'm just gonna build this. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Copy and paste it. So with it selected, I'm going to edit, copy, edit, paste. Okay, and I'm just going to use my shortcuts to speed it up. And I'm going to draw it, resize it. This is where you can just build your own grass. It's a little bit hard. Grab that dot in the middle to make sure you move it. Now I'm just doodling. There is one other thing, so hang around. I'll show you in a sec. Okay, copy, paste, move it around. Okay, so I'm not too worried about these being kind of down here because I'm going to show you a technique to kind of trim them up. So I'm going to select all these, copy and paste it. I've got another version. Okay, and with them all selected, I can scale them all in one go. So it's going to look something like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. Okay, and I'm going to grab you, and I'm going to give it a fill of this kind of like dark gray color. I'll show you what I'm going to do in a second. You saw it at the beginning, right? So move him back in. Nice. Cool. So we've used my drawing now and it's kind of done its dash. Okay, we've got our kind of full drawing now. I want to go into my layers panel and let's just turn the visibility of it off. So this eyeball layer here, if you click on that, you'll notice it disappears. You can leave it there, okay, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just turning it off so I can't see it. It kind of brings me to my next point. I don't know why I need to resize this. My next point is when you're scaling things, well, it's what happens by default. So if I select everything, so black arrow, drag a box around all of it, okay, under properties, there's an important thing here, okay, actually, no, before you select anything, there's this one here, scale, stroke, and effects. Okay, so there's gonna be times when you need this on and sometimes when you need it off. So if it's off, look what happens. If I select this and I scale it down, say I just need a smaller version of them. So I've selected all, I'm going to scale it down, and like we did when we're drawing lots of shapes, if we hold down shift while we're scaling it, it locks the height and width, otherwise it gets all kind of stretchy. Okay, so shift down, and look what happens when I get down quite small. Okay, it's remembered that this is 5 points. Okay, and it just does some weird stuff when it gets down to here, right? Because it's trying to kind of remember the actual radiuses that we used, okay, around here, and it's doing some strange things. So sometimes you want that, okay, you want to scale it down a bit and retain the stroke width, but I'm going to go to Edit Undo, and with nothing selected, I'm going to turn that on, and it's going to scale those strokes now. Okay, proportionally to the size that I've got. Now when I scale it down, I hold down shift and I scale it down, you can see these guys, these stars here, they come down and they're a smaller size. They're like 3 points now. Okay, so that's just kind of something you need to kind of be aware of when you're scaling things, is that sometimes you want them to scale with, appropriately, and sometimes you want them to get actually smaller. So you'll turn that on and off. Okay, last little thing is I'm just gonna, I don't know, make this look a little nicer with some rectangles. I'm going to use I'm gonna draw a rectangle that covers kind of the bottom here. I'm just gonna match the same color as my grass. Actually, I might use the black arrow and get it to snap to the bottom of my fox. I'm gonna use the same color as that. So fill, and which one is it? Lucky first guess. Same with the sky here. Okay, I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool and spacebar, drag up a little bit, and let's have a nice starry sky. Snaps in, fill color, I'm gonna use another one of the darker grays, that dark. Okay, with it selected, arrange, send it back, and I might make these stars just white, even though we spent ages talking about the strokes of these guys. Goodbye stroke. And the fill might be up to, I don't know what I'm doing. Messing about now. All right, so that is my, or our fox drawn out of just really basic shapes. And there's so much you can do just with those shapes. Now, like I said at the beginning, often it's a combination of, I've kind of kept this design to specific shapes just to kind of like, I guess, work through some of the tools. But often you'll find you'll be using things like the shape builder tool and the pen tool, which we'll do in the next tutorials. Also my process, like you saw how we kind of started with a drawing first. I do that really often, right? I'll kind of draw in my notebook because I find that it's just easier and quicker. And then often I don't even do a scan, okay, to redraw in Illustrator. I just get a general sense of it in my notebook. Now, my drawing here look really good, right? Well, look really good. It's perfect, you know, it's kind of like follows the lines. It's never that good. I'll show you. I'll cut to this shot here, jump across. So here it is. I just took a photo of my notebook here. That is the glorious fox. I just kind of drew a little bit and kind of got it close, and I wouldn't scan that and redraw. I just used it as a kind of a visual, and then just started drawing in Illustrator kind of to perfect it, I guess, it look to get a nicer shape. But yeah, that's kind of more of a truer sense of my process. I will just do a really kind of basic drawing and then draw straight into Illustrator. Okay, so that's the end of how to draw with basic shapes. And what I'd like to do now is challenge you to a challenge. And it's to take kind of the same techniques. So you're going to let you use rectangles, stars, lines, those types of things, and create your own animal. It could be sleeping like mine. It doesn't have to be. Okay, just something simple. Pick some different colors. It can still be a mammal. Okay, so you can use the whiskers. It can still be sleeping. It can use stars. But just pick a different animal, dog, cat, some sort of animal, and I'd love to see it as part of your project. So give it a go. I'd love to see what you have done. So when you've done it, doesn't matter how good you think it is or bad it is, please post it as a project. I'd love to see it. All right, let's get on to the next video.